Welcome back to Systems of Scale. I'm Ian Gatsky. Today, I'm joined by John Prather. John's an engineer that played football in college, which, if you're into stereotypes, is a rare combination. And these days, he's building online businesses and helping other people do the same, with a big focus on using AI to create more leverage and freedom. In this conversation, we get into what leverage looks like in practice, the role of mentorship, the balance between effort and timing in success, and why AI is going to change the way that people work, learn, and run businesses. If you're new here and you get value from this conversation, hit subscribe and share it with a friend. And now here is my conversation with John Prather. John, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So you had a long athletic career, moved into the engineering field, and now you are building online businesses. So that's a lot of hard work in a lot of different arenas of life. But when did you first realize, like you have a philosophy around leverage that I think is super interesting that I'd love for you to share. But when did you first realize that you were working really hard, but still didn't really have leverage in what you were working on? And then how did you go about creating leverage in the work that you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, like you said, leverage is important. I feel like when I first got introduced to entrepreneurship through network marketing, that's really where my eyes kind of got opened in a sense, where I realized that, when you're an employee, you're the only lever you have per se, where it's like the hours you put in is the money that you get out, and whatever rate you agree to is all you can do. But I realized through network marketing and then ultimately many, many businesses is that the more leverage you can create, i.e., the more assets you can develop that work for you as opposed to you working for them is really where ultimately wealth is created. When it comes to network marketing, the larger size of the team that you can build. When it comes to a traditional business, the more systems you can put into place to take your active energy out of it ultimately gives you the leverage where most people want to be, where they can have more of that passive income, where you have, less time input, but more income output is the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. I just pulled over the book I was talking about this earlier in a meeting, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Have you read this by chance?
No, I
Naval.
haven't. I haven't.
Now I really look up to Naval. Big inspiration for me. And he talks a lot about leverage, and he talks about there's four different kinds of leverage. There's people leverage, there's capital, there's content, and there's digital leverage was like the fourth lever. But yeah,
hmm
he's really big
hmm
on leverage, and that is why I'm so excited to talk to you about this. So for you, the leverage that you're building, are you still in the network marketing game?
Yeah, so right now I still currently build a network marketing business, but also have a coaching business on the side. We're working with traditional entrepreneurs to kind of scale their business online.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, I mean, in that network marketing business, right, your leverage that you're creating is through people. But then with the coaching business, what is so attractive about this info product space is that typically it revolves around content, which is
Yep.
infinitely
Yep.
scalable, right? It's just like one of the best types of leverage that you can
Yeah.
create, which is amazing. So, who first introduced the idea of leverage to you and kind of changed the way that you look at this idea?
Yeah, I would say my first mentor in network marketing, Vishal Jain, he opened my mind to it, where he gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad and then Cash Flow Quadrants from Robert Kiyosaki, world famous book,
Classics.
where it kind of again opened my eyes. I had kind of grown up in the sense, go to school, get a good education, get a good job, went that track, studied at Carnegie Mellon University, top 10 university, and got an engineering degree and was going that route. But ultimately, as I was playing football and I had friends in college who were doing side businesses, it just piqued my interest. I was like, you know what? There's more out there than just working a 9 to 5. And ultimately, through a friend on LinkedIn, he had connected me with my mentor Vishal, where he had given me these books, and I still work with him today. He's still one of my very close mentors and friends who's walked me through kind of. He had created massive amounts of success in network marketing, been financially free for many, many decades through a large business and other investments he's done. And he kind of walked me through, held my hand and kind of showed me, hey, John, if you keep going on the path you're going on, hey, you'll do great. You'll have a high 6 figure income, but you're the only one working. If you ever get fired, if you ever get laid off, and now with AI, I mean, this was pre-AI, pre-COVID when I first met him. I didn't really see those things, and he said, hey, just with all these things coming on the horizon, you should start taking some stuff into your own hands. And that's when he started to walk me through network marketing and other businesses, and starting to create content, and it really opened my eyes to, hey, I should have multiple things going on. I still work full time, definitely grateful for the job I have, but having those other streams of income has been invaluable in terms of our future and where we're going to go.
Absolutely. And you taking that accountability and creating something, like putting your name on something, creating your own business, creating your own product, whatever that may be, is the only true kind of reliable way to sustain yourself and like Because if you're working for somebody else, right, your future, your raise, your time off, kind of everything about your situation, your calendar, right, is in somebody else's control. But if you take that bet on yourself to go out there, find a way to create value in the world, solve a problem, get paid doing so, is really
Mhm.
the only guaranteed way that you can be in charge and be in charge of the direction that you're going and be in charge of the future that you create for yourself. So I'm a big proponent of encouraging people to kind of step into that world of like becoming an entrepreneur. So like when you're coaching the people who are maybe on the fence, like haven't made the jump into taking that accountability, taking that bet on themselves, going out, finding a problem that they can solve, maybe that's the first step. But what is that first step that you encourage people to take when they're wanting to start that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I typically work with people on is kind of that mindset piece. First realizing kind of just like we were just talking is that leverage component. Do you realize that there is more out there for you that if you were to go about things a little bit differently, you could create significant results? One thing I remember I learned, your job has to make 3 to 5 times your salary in order to justify paying you. So when I realized that, I was like, huh,
Yeah.
like even if I make 100K, I'm really worth 3 to 500K, and obviously again, with business and stuff, they obviously have to make a profit, so it makes sense. But as an individual, I'm driving that much value. If I just do it for myself, why can't I create that value for myself? So what I typically teach people is find a problem that you can solve. For me, when I was young, had really no background, just a college student. I love the network marketing space, the affiliate marketing space, because it kind of gives you a proven system to kind of start off with. Especially if you're brand new, you've never done anything before, you have somebody who can kind of hold your hand and you can really run with something that's legit and profitable. But for those who have a little bit more experience, I would recommend, again, find a problem you can solve. For somebody like myself, if you're an engineer, figure out a solution that you're already utilizing in your career. I mean, so many people in the construction industry already do this. They work their construction job and then they start a construction business. In the info product space, it might be something accounting based. Maybe you're good at accounting. Hey, let me take on a couple of clients on the side and build out a offer where I can promote to small businesses. Maybe it's in the IT AI space. Hey, there's a bunch of people looking to utilize AI. They just don't know how to implement it. Hey, maybe that's your lane where you can create a small little info product, coach people who are already businesses that want to get into AI and digital marketing and just kind of help them transition. So there's so many variables. There's so many options now. That's what I tell people is find a problem you can solve. And if you don't know anything, again, affiliate marketing, network marketing are great opportunities where you don't necessarily have to come up with anything on the front end, because I feel like that does stop a few people where they're like, I want to do something, but I just don't know what to do. We'll start off with something where you don't have to create the offer. And then once you do a few, once you get your feet under you, then okay, I can start other things and try new things. And then you can be off and running.
Phenomenal advice. Go back and watch that again. I love the point that you said where if you have some kind of job where you're performing a skill that you're being paid for. Like I'm trying to think like, okay, if you work at like Taco Bell, you work at McDonald's, you probably won't be able to take the
Mhm.
skills that you've taken from that job, go do that for other people, right? But for most jobs, I would imagine that you could just take what you're doing in your current job and then just, okay, this is the skill I have. I'm solving some kind of problem in the work that I'm doing. I could just go and do this on my own. Right? If you're working at an accounting firm, just take that skill of accounting, go and do it for other people.
Mhm.
Yeah, it all starts with the problem, and there's a never-ending supply of those. Those are never going away, no matter how good AI
Sure.
gets at things. Right? There's always going to be a infinite supply of problems to go solve, and that's what I love so much about entrepreneurs is because they're the ones out there solving problems, right? A business is just a problem solving machine, and a business is created by somebody who went out and built it, right? That entrepreneur. But I think your advice about if you don't want to worry about having to craft an offer, maybe stepping into the network marketing, affiliate marketing space, I think is sage advice because if you do that, right, you are building something that's creating a lot more leverage in your life. You're taking more control. You're taking accountability. You're taking that bet on yourself. But all you have to learn is the skill of sales, right? Like you're just kind of like a
Sure.
salesperson that's building like a compounding book of business. And that's also like the most
Mhm.
important skill that you could ever learn is that skill of sales. You talked about mentorship too. If you want to step into the network marketing and the affiliate marketing space, but you've also talked about it in your content, the value of having a mentor and what that did for you in your life. So, like, how did that show up for you? That first mentor, what did that do for your life? And is that something that you're looking to do for others now through this new venture?
Absolutely. I mean, it completely changed the trajectory of my life, I would say. Again, especially first jumping into the entrepreneurship space through network marketing. I mean, it just opened my eyes because it walked me through again where to go side by side. Like you mentioned, the skill of sales, because that's again, like we mentioned, once you create an info product, you're eventually going to have to learn how to sell it, close it, work with people. That's definitely a key one. If you already have that taken care of with the affiliate or network marketing offer, obviously you're going to learn that very quickly and then you can apply those skills elsewhere. But yeah, mentorship has been unbelievably helpful, just from the sense of starting my own business, but even personal finance, because it's one thing to make money, but it's another thing to keep the money that you make and have effective tax strategies and, save and budget and plan for the future, make smart decisions. So that's another huge and crucial one. And even for those that may not be, again, interested in that network marketing or affiliate marketing space, again, YouTube, I mean, I have so many mentors that I've never officially met, but I just listen to on a consistent basis. Like I was telling you before we recorded, Myron Golden is a big one for me. Anthony O'Neill, the Money Guy Show, a few different people like that. Even Dave Ramsey for a period when I was younger in my career. I've learned a lot from them, just mindset wise. In terms of me, I mean, that's exactly what I'm looking to do in my coaching business. Is one of my goals this year is actually to help 5 to 10 new people start their own online business utilizing AI and to help them make their first $1,000 per month online. I'm looking to work with people, teach them what I've already learned and just show them the ropes, and give them a proven formula, whether you've already started your own business or you're looking for something new, giving them those tips and tricks that they can start working with. So yeah, absolutely. I'm looking to help more people and create a bigger impact.
Amazing. If you're interested in working with John, talking more with him to learn more about that, we'll put the link in the show notes here below, so you can check out that offer that he has. I think that's genius. It's a brilliant thing there. I think it can help a lot of people, kind of get them going, get them
Definitely.
kickstarted in their journey, in their own entrepreneurial journey. But how would you articulate the role of a mentor? Like, what is the role of a mentor, or how do you want to approach that role, that responsibility of being a mentor to others? Like, what do you think is the role of a great mentor?
At a basic level, how I would view a mentor is somebody who can take you from the version you are today to the version that you want to be, is a simple way of describing
Mm,
it and kind of helping walk through it. So the cool part about it is it's different for everybody. Not everybody, it's not a cookie cutter approach. Not everybody needs the same advice, the same tips, because everyone has different skill sets. So that's where it comes down to being able to sit down and talk with somebody, being able to get an idea of, hey, what is your ultimate goal? Again, whether it's network marketing or my coaching business, I sit down with a bunch of people and that's kind of the first question I ask them is, hey, like, what do you want to get out of it? Because, your why is ultimately going to dictate everything that we do from here on out. I know a lot of people in network marketing, sometimes they get a bad rap, have a bad taste in their mouth because people are just pushing them to do certain things or recruit and do all this stuff. When you do it correctly, one of the things that I've noticed is, again, it's all about the individual. Some people want to make $100 a month. Some people want to make $5,000 a month, $10,000, or, again, in their business, they want to scale it to a certain point. But maybe they have certain limitations. Hey, I don't want to give up this amount of time, because I have a family and other things I want to do outside of my business. So, okay, obviously it's going to adjust your goal. So I think that's where it's really critical is understanding the individual and like, what is their goal? I think most people, again, having a little bit of extra cash coming in each month is a fair goal. I would say kind of you can paint that with a broad brush. Now, beyond that, how much, what they want to do with it, that obviously changes. But that's what I would say is helping somebody get from where they are to who they want to be and kind of working with them through it. Some of the things that I teach people is three areas I would say is one is personal development, growing yourself. Because again, the version you are today isn't the version that's going to get you to your goals, whether that be reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos, or a combination of all three is definitely one thing you definitely want to work into your schedule on a regular basis. The second thing I would say is definitely some sort of added revenue generator. So if you don't have a business, obviously starting something, working with a, network marketing or affiliate marketing, opportunity is a good way to get that added extra income. Or if you already have a business, figure out how you can start creating more clients, adding more offers to your portfolio. And then the third thing I would recommend is something personal finance related. How do you manage your money? Because again, you could make $10,000 a month, but if you spend $9,999, you don't have any money left over. So how do you budget? How do you work things through? How do you, invest for the future? So I would say those are kind of the three things, when it comes to just general mentorship. Now, again, depending on business, you can obviously dive a lot deeper, but generally speaking, if you get your personal development right, you get some extra income coming in and then you learn how to manage that money, to set you up to where I'm sure more opportunities will present themselves and you'll at least have the opportunity to take those rather than being stuck behind the eight ball.
That was an excellent answer. I can tell you spent a lot of time thinking about this, but that's awesome. Just to
No,
like add
absolutely.
some little anecdotes too. Like I got Naval Ravikant on the brain, just because I just went back through and
Yeah.
reread that book for like the third or fourth time. But so you break down your mentorship and kind of how you approach from a broad perspective, how you approach kind of coaching other people or mentoring other people into three categories, right? Personal development, added income, added revenue, and then the personal finance element of it. So the one thing that
Mhm.
came to my mind for the personal development, and you talked about reading books, like one little quote in there, which was Naval talks about there's not educated versus not educated. There's likes to read versus doesn't likes to read, right? Like reading and most successful people in the world are all self-taught, like they're self-learners or whatever, however, whatever
Very
phrase you want
true.
to put on that. All the coolest jobs, all the best jobs, all of the people that have created the lifestyle that they love, a job that they love, are just ones that they had to go and create for themselves. Like they had to build the business that enabled them to do the work that they love. And you're really only ever going to be able to get to that point or do that or learn enough about a certain thing if you are reading, right? You're just reading about it. You're consuming information on your own.
Mhm.
So I love that little distinction of it's not educated versus not educated.
Yeah.
It's likes to read versus doesn't like to read. Like he talks about reading a lot in this book and just how important reading is. That
Yeah.
third point, personal finance point, Alex Hormozy talks about how wealth is a ratio, right? Between how much you make and how much you
Mhm.
spend. That's like
True.
priority numero uno when it comes to personal finance is just you can increase your wealth by adding how much you make or decreasing how much you spend, and you can really make a lot of impact on yourself by doing both, by making more and then just not spending
Yeah.
as much. But I know we gave a little teaser a few minutes ago about the new program that you're starting where you're coaching others how to start their first online business using AI. I would love to kind of explore what is that program.
My plug and profit guide. That's kind of where you can kind of get the basis of it. And then after that, obviously, we can sit down and have a conversation. So when they click that, it'll kind of walk them through sort of the AI model, how you can kind of start building it. And then obviously, you can have a free consultation with me where you can kind of start to sit down and walk through how to be able to do that. So the gist of it is very simple. First starts with a basic sales funnel. You start with a lead generation freebie offer where you give somebody something of value that they're interested in, whether it be, hey, how to start an online business with AI. Hey, improve your personal finance, or again, how you can assist somebody in accounting services or whatever it might be. But start with some sort of freebie lead gen offer where you can start to grab people's emails and information, because that's ultimately the nature of this online space. The more emails, the more people that you can reach, that's ultimately where your sales are going to come from. Because again, just posting stuff on social media, very few people are just going to buy from you just because they see you on social media. Figuring out
Yeah.
getting some sort of freebie lead generation offer. Again, for those that work with me, I'll show them exactly how to do it. I already have like a done for you system where you can just plug into mine, or you can create something for yourself. The second step after that, like I said, is you get a big email list. You start working with that. We already have an email software, which there's a bunch that's free on there. But basically, you start utilizing that email list where you can start emailing those lists with your area of expertise. So again, whatever your lead generation offer is, then you can start giving value to those clients. So again, whether it be AI businesses, accounting, whatever it might be. And then after that, you can start to work in your offer. Again, you don't want to jump into the offer right away, because then you're going to sell yourself, and people are going to get turned off if you're just like promote, promote, promote. So you want to add value first before you offer something, but you do ultimately want to offer something, because that's how you start to make your income. And that's
Right.
where, again, with sitting down with people, you can kind of determine, hey, like you had mentioned, do I already have an info product, or do I have an idea I can already sell somebody? Or that's where you can use network marketing or affiliate marketing, where it's like, hey, you got the list now. Let's start helping you create some sales with somebody else's offer, which is already proven. You already know that it's working. Again, that's how I got started. That's how I typically recommend people is, get started with that. And the cool part is you can do a little bit of everything. If you find a niche that you like, there's probably a bunch of affiliates in that space. So you can kind of offer a little bit of, different things again. And that's where
Yeah.
you kind of work with the individual. But yeah, that's kind of the breakdown of it at a high level.
Love it. I think that point, once you get to you find the lead magnet or whatever that freebie resource is going to be that's going to help you build your list up. But once you have that list, you have so many different things that you can do, right? You can, and that's something that I've overlooked is finding, okay, this is the list that I've built. This is the makeup of that list. This is like majority of these kinds of people. What are some of those affiliate opportunities that I could take advantage of to just bring in some revenue right away without me having to handle any of the fulfillment, which is sounds super nice and something that I've definitely overlooked and should probably look more into. But then can kind of get challenging, but it's fun too because you can kind of experiment with
Mhm.
a bunch of different things and you just focus on having as many conversations as you possibly can with people on that list or people that are in your world. Ask them about like, hey,
Yeah.
what are the things that you're struggling with? What are the problems that you're experiencing? What are the things that you want to achieve, right? Just get an understanding of, just talk to like every person on that list, right? In the beginning, just do the things that don't scale, which is just talking directly to the
Sure.
people on your list, right? Just schedule a meeting, just learn more about their business, learn more about the problems that they're experiencing. And then as you get that information, as you get that data, you'll learn more about what people are looking for. And then you can design an offer, build the necessary skill sets to then solve that problem for them and then build your own offer, right? Once you want to expand beyond the affiliates, the affiliate marketing, if again, you want to commit that amount of time and you want to go all in and start a
Mhm.
business around this, but do you equip them with the funnel and everything?
Yeah, so I have a portion of it where it's just completely done, set up for you in the realm of kind of AI building businesses. So again, if
Uh-huh.
somebody has something different, obviously we can plug and play and move things around, but it's already built for you. So once somebody we start working together, I mean, they can get it up and running literally that same day and start making
That's
sales
awesome.
right away.
That's awesome, man. I think there's going to be so much demand for what you're offering there because the trend is not going to stop of AI being more and more integrated into corporations, right? Like the average number of employees per $1 million of revenue in corporations is only going to continue to go down, right? And obviously the dark side of that
Exactly.
is that, okay, there's probably going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs because of it. But I think me being an optimist at heart, I think it's going to force a lot of people into a situation where they're going to have to figure out how to create their own value in the world, aka become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like I think this wave is going to create more entrepreneurs, and I also think that this technology is going to make accessibility to becoming an entrepreneur a lot easier. Like it's going to take down a lot of barriers and make it a lot easier for others
Hmm.
to start their own business, start an online business, just like create their own value in the world because of
Hmm.
these tools and because of the
Yeah.
resources like you are putting together, which kind of fast track that murky beginning, that ugly beginning where you are just building the foundation and starting to get your initial traction. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of demand for what you're offering.
And not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but just like you said, sort of with the AI and taking away jobs, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that that's so true. And, if we look back just, 50 to 100 years, I mean, so many more people were entrepreneurs. Now, again, back then it was so much more difficult, because you had to kind of run everything brick and mortar. Like you said, there's a good and a bad side. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be lost, but I feel like it's going to push people to say, hey, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You have to create more value, work around more people. I feel like, again, people have been so siloed with, I just do one thing for my whole life. That's not how it was. Again, 50, 100 years, you might have had a hardware business, but it's like, you were the salesman, you knew about the clients,
Yeah.
you were like networking with people. It's like it built a community. So again, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I feel like ultimately, again, it'll be a little bit of a wake up shock, but I think it'll ultimately help out in the long run for sure. And it'll
Yeah.
change the entire way of how people are taught growing up. I feel like school as a whole is going to change a lot because again, there's not going to be too many just cookie cutter jobs. Obviously the basics you got to learn, but it's like beyond middle school, high school, it's like, all right, now it should be more of like experiential learning rather than just, hey, let me sit in a classroom and learn the stuff that, AI is going to do all of that stuff. So it's like, there's good and bad to both of it, but I feel like you said, the optimistic side of it is it'll get people out of their comfort zones. And I feel like it'll make people more well-rounded, communicate better and, the ability to
And
make
more
more money if they
fulfilled.
obviously
And I
implement
think
it.
way more fulfilled too.
Exactly.
Like, cause
Yeah.
I think,
That's big.
yeah, when you're doing something for yourself, there is no better feeling than
Mhm.
making progress in what you're doing. Like, you're going to give a lot of
Exactly. So
about
true.
what you're doing. If you're doing some, if you
Yeah.
got your name on it,
Yeah.
if you
So true.
are doing it, there's nothing more satisfying than just making progress on something that you really care
100%.
about. And you're not going to start a business. You're not going to have success in any business or any venture that you start unless you really care about it, right? Unless you care about the problem that you're solving, you care about the solution that you're delivering, you care about the work that you're doing. It's so hard to start a business and sustain a business that you have to care. You have to care about what you're
Mhm.
doing. I think it's going to push people into a situation where they have to figure out how do they create their own value in the world. And I think there's a lot of great people that I've spoken with that are working on things that'll help people figure that out. Cause like the answering
Mhm.
of the question of what do I want to do with my life or
Yeah.
what business would I start is also a pretty complicated question. But I know a lot of people that are building tools like people like you, right? Where you're building resources that help kind of fast track that process of figuring out what kind of business you should start. But anyways, they're forced in that situation where they have to figure that out. Then once they find it, then they're going to be building something that they care about. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to
Yeah.
see that version of the world. And your point about the education system
Yeah.
too, that's going to need a big overhaul, big reinvention. But I
Yeah.
think artificial intelligence is going to make that reinvention, that overhaul possible. And I think the
Yep.
education system is going to change in a big way where it's, instead of sitting in a lecture with 300 people and everybody's being taught the same thing the same way, I think AI is going to just enable mass personalization at scale, so many
Very
different
true.
avenues, including education. Like, I think you're going to be taught the things that you are genuinely interested in the way that you learn best, whether that's through videos, whether that's through
Yeah.
audio, whether that's through, textbooks, tasks, the projects are going to be tailored to you. Like, I'm so excited,
No,
all of
that's
that.
gonna
And
be
like,
super cool.
yeah, and just the potential and the opportunities that are out there that are enabled by this new capability that is artificial intelligence is pretty cool. You talk in some of your content about kind of just luck and timing, right? And that's not something that you can predict and anticipate and really create. That's something that you hear a lot of successful entrepreneurs talk about is just like, I got lucky, right? The timing was right. When you reflect on your journey up until this point, how do you think about that relationship between preparation, timing, and luck in your own story?
You kind of hit it on the head with the whole luck is when preparation and preparedness meet, so kind of being prepared for it and then being willing to take that step. I mean, I think 100%, that luck is definitely involved. Anybody that says that they're self-made and they did everything on their own and figured it all out, honestly, that's never the case. There's always
The
an
line to you.
element of
Yeah.
luck. Yeah, exactly. But it comes out, I think, from that standpoint that you have to be willing to work when you're not getting paid to ultimately get paid when you're not working. And I feel like so many
Uh,
people, they want the passive income paid when they're not working, have that cash flow coming in, but they're not willing to do kind of that dirty work where it's like, hey, I have to do a lot of effort before I start seeing that success. They're so used to that do 2 weeks of work, get a paycheck. They're not used to doing a few months and reiterating and figuring out, hey, does this work? Does that work? Does this lead generation work? Does this email sequence work? And kind of going through it. But once you figure that out, then it's kind of like on rinse and repeat. So I feel like again that luck is definitely a factor in it. But again, it's kind of where preparation and preparedness meet. If you're prepared, you're following through, doing whatever it is, you're going to prepare yourself. And ultimately, when those opportunities present themselves, you'll be able to take action. I feel like so many people there have opportunities that pop up, but they're just not willing to take action on it. They're not willing to move forward when it does show up in their life.
And there's a lot that goes into that, right? There's a lot of human psychology that goes into, why you don't take the leap when the opportunity shows up because, it could be scary. Also, you
Hmm.
could just like not be prepared for that opportunity. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I think that's well said, right? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity and, you increase your likelihood of getting lucky, which is just kind of like a requirement. Like you just got to have a lucky break at some point to meet a bunch of new customers at once or like get this one big client that leads to a bunch of new clients and you just get super lucky or you like meet this random person, right? But you can increase your surface area or your chances of getting lucky by just staying in the game long enough, right? And just not quitting, right? Like one of the best words or
Yeah.
best phrases from Hermosi, he's like, you only fail if you quit. If you just stay in the
Hmm.
game long enough, if you can endure, at some point you're going to get lucky. You're going to get that lucky break, right? It's the overnight success was made through in 10 years of behind the scenes effort or whatever. Like if you just stay in the game long enough, you're going to catch that lucky break.
And I think kind of on that same line, I know one of my mentors, like I was saying, Myron Golden, he talks about from the Bible where he talks about, all work works, is that the fact that sometimes the work that you're working on is working on you. Other times
Uh,
the work that you're working on is working for you, where you're actually succeeding. But again, most people, they don't understand the difference. Again, that when the work is working on you, it's developing you. And I would encourage, even for those that are listening to this podcast, I would recommend maybe even go through a season where you just say yes to everything. You should
uh-huh.
just take opportunities, especially if you're young, because you learn from it. Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, I failed, I didn't succeed, I didn't do what I need to do. You learned what worked, what didn't work. And as long as you have that positive mindset, take it to the next thing that you do. And like you said, eventually you're going to hit that thing. I think Mark Cuban said, you only need one good opportunity in your life, and then
Right.
you can become, again, if you're not prepared, if you're saying no to everything and you're trying to just pick that right opportunity, it could be disguised as something you don't know or
Yep.
you might not like. But, if you say yes, 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 maybe fail a little bit, tweak, do this, then that opportunity presents itself. That's how you get prepared. Do something where you're trying to make some extra income or trying to start some business. If you fail in the first 90 days, you might get a great opportunity in 6 months that what you failed with this, you learned a little bit and you succeeded in the next thing.
Yeah, all work works. It's either working on you or it's working for you. But at the end of the day, you got to just work.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and you just got to do the things, take the actions. You got to say yes. You got to take a stab at trying to provide value and helping somebody fail a lot, right? And you just got to keep failing until it eventually works and you land on something that, oh, I helped somebody. I did something good and they were happy. I'm just going to do that again for the next person. But yeah, it just takes a while to
Yeah.
figure that out, find the thing. I'm going into my second business now, and I thought it was going to be easier the second time, and it absolutely is not. There is no skipping that
Sure.
exploration phase of figuring out who you help and what you do for them, right? Like you're going to go in with an idea, but until you actually start talking to your customers and trying to deliver a solution to them, you're never going to know just by thinking about it, right? Or even if you're working with AI, like maybe AI can kind of help give you a better idea out the gates. You're not going to
Mhm.
know who you help best and what you do for them and like the problem that you help them solve and how you solve it until you actually get out and start working with
Doing it.
customers,
Yeah.
right? In the first 10 customers that you have, it's not going to be great, but the 11th is going to be better, the 12th is going to be better, the 13th, all the way, it should get better every single time. But I love that. All
Yeah.
work works. The
Yeah.
problem that I did land on that I'm attempting to solve with my business is in the info product space, whether it's a book, course, coaching program. The reality is that nobody gets value from any of those products unless they do the work. I don't really get any value from just reading them, right? Like I need to change my behavior. I need to take actions on the exercise and the things that that book tells me to do. And the same thing, like when I join your coaching program, I won't get any value just by watching your coaching program, right? I got to go out and do the work,
Yep.
right? But the sad reality is that in the info product space, of the percentage of people that ever actually open the course or open the book, 4% or 5% of people ever actually take action
Yeah.
and
Very
do the
low.
work. Yeah, it's incredible. And I fell very much in that 95%. I label that
Hmm.
problem as the client execution gap, right? The gap between your clients learning
Hmm.
what they need to do in your program and then actually taking action and doing it. So, what have you built in your program to kind of help close that client execution gap of bridging the gap between learning and doing for your clients? Like, how do you facilitate them, hold them accountable to doing the work that you assign to them so that they get the value?
There's no one way I feel like to kind of close that gap because ultimately it's the person's decision of if they want to execute it. I would say for me, what I've tried to do the most is kind of walk with them hand in hand and kind of guide them. Again, I try to, in that first aspect of it, kind of sit down and get their why as to why they want to move forward. What is it that they want to do? Because then ultimately we can kind of bring it back to that why when they are having those implementation, struggles of actually following through. Then it's like, okay, well, how serious were you about what we talked about? Do you actually want to make an extra $1,000 a month? Do you want to eventually walk away from your full-time job and have some choices? What is that goal? And is that still important to you? I always kind of view it a gym membership or a trainer where it's like, sometimes people get gym memberships, but because they don't have a trainer, they don't go because there's no accountability. So it's kind of like as a coach, you can be that accountability partner. But on the flip side, I would say is they have to allow you to be that accountability partner because if they don't, there's ultimately nothing that we as coaches can do. And I feel like again for me that was a huge struggle early on in my network marketing career and even as a business coach. But I feel like that weight off of my shoulder, I've kind of lifted in a sense where I've realized, hey, ultimately people have to be accountable for themselves. Again, as a coach, I want to be as helpful as I can. I want to be available. They can reach out, we can have conversations, we can go through all of that. But if you're not willing to take those steps, hey, I'm here for you. I always kind of view it as like, I love you forever, but until you're ready to move and take those steps, there's nothing else I can do other than just be your friend. If I
Right.
just keep trying to, hey, do this, hey, here's a way to get around your issue, the initial issue is never really the true issue. It's always something else, some other mindset. But to answer it, the best way I've seen to help is kind of to try to be that accountability partner. So it at least helps mitigate sort of those top level issues. If it is one of those deeper things of like just belief in themselves and, just readiness to take that action, some of that is just a matter of they just need to see it more and more. And the more that they see the success, then eventually they'll take it.
Yeah. They just got to do the ugly hard work for sure. And I think tying it back to the why, right? Like always getting clear on the why when the person joins, like why did you do this? Right? What is the outcome you want?
Yeah.
And then every time you kind of come into that moment where they've kind of stalled out, they've hit some friction, just reattaching them to that why. And like we're going through this
Mhm.
hard moment, we're doing this hard because we want to get to that end outcome. Yeah, that's the human part of this space and coaching and mentorship and advising and programs, whatever, and books that AI, no technology is ever going to be able to replicate. That human to human accountability, that relationship that's built is just imperative. And I think that's the quality of
Yeah.
excellent programs. Like the coaching programs that I've had the best success with, like Agency U with Austin Schneider, like I built an amazing relationship with Austin, who was coaching me through that journey of scaling my marketing agency, right? And like him holding me accountable and like, yo, why didn't you get this done? You told me you're going to get this done. And now it's like, okay, I don't want to disappoint Austin, right? Like I want to do this thing, right? So there's like
Sure.
elements of
Yep.
that
Exactly.
aren't going to be replicated by AI. And then some other things that we've learned from other coaches, that creating some friction at the entry point where you're making sure that you're only letting in people that you believe are committed to doing the work and
Mhm.
are going to do what's necessary to get the
Yeah.
outcome, right? Because you don't want to pollute the people in your space. People aren't going to take action and do the work and get the result and get the outcome, because you just don't want to let those people into
True.
your world. And then the way that I've approached it and the way that I work with my clients to help solve this is basically just by taking their info product, their program, and building a custom AI model that's trained on all of their content that is designed to guide their clients through doing the work that's assigned to them step by step, right? Obviously, that's not relevant to all of the work, right? Like
True.
you can't use
Yeah.
AI really to like shift a mindset. Like that's just not going to happen. But there
Yeah.
is like some tactical things that happen throughout the program to where we can build a custom AI model that guides your consumers through doing the work that you assign to them, that removes a lot of the friction and just makes it a lot easier for them to do the work. It's like a big reason why I started this podcast is to explore that problem. If we can change that statistic from 95% of people, when they get an info product, they don't do the work. If we could move it from 5% of the people actually take action and do the work from a book or from a course or from a coaching program, move that to 15%, 20%, 50%, just the transformation and the outcome I think that we'd be able to have, or impact that we'd be able to have, would be awesome. So we'd love to find ways
Yeah.
to solve that. But
Absolutely.
John, if you had a giant billboard that everyone in the world could see for 10 seconds, what would it say and why?
Trust God and trust the process. Why would be because of the fact that, again, kind of just like we talked about, one of the things I felt like I struggled with a lot was helping clients to grow and move and kind of pushing people to do something that they're either not willing or unable to do. And you kind of get frustrated because ultimately, again, whether it be coaching business or network marketing or anything that you do, if your success is built on helping other people, most people that get into that space are very self-motivated, so they don't necessarily need that motivation too much themselves, but when you're trying to push somebody else to do something that they might not be ready to do, it's kind of that controlling nature where it's like, okay, I want to succeed. I can see my goals right ahead. If you just do this, I'll be at my goal. But ultimately, they're not in it for you, they're in it for themselves. And realizing that, I feel like, was for me kind of how I tapped into my faith big time in the past couple of years, is to kind of just let a lot of that go, kind of be like, hey, people will move at their pace. As long as I control my controllables, that's kind of where I will succeed. And that's kind of, I guess, the second part of it, where it's trust the process, is that, hey, if you're willing to do the work in a coaching program, like you said, Ian, you're already top 5%, so you're
Yeah.
already beating 95% of the people if you're taking any action whatsoever. So that's when it
Yeah.
just comes to trusting the process. As long as you're competently choosing the process and coaching that you want, who can actually get you there and has some proven results, you're likely to see the success. And I feel like, kind of going back to what we talked about with the whole luck and finding the right opportunities, it's preparation. You might start off in one industry, get good at it, get some results, but there's a limit to it. You can't get as far as you want to go, but you learn so many valuable things. Hey, I can take it to this next arena and I can 10x my income just because it's a different arena, different product, different service, and I can grow it from there. So it kind of, again, it's that process where it's not only are you trusting the process within the opportunity you're in right now, but it's also kind of like trust the whole process. Again, that's kind of where God comes into play, where it's like your whole life, when you look back at it, you can connect the dots. But when you're living it, it's like, man, where am I going? Like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
And this messed up and this happened. So I feel like that would be it for me, is just as I'm, growing now, turning 30 actually this year, I feel like that's kind of the maturity that I'm starting to get as I'm exiting my 20s, is not taking my foot off the gas, but kind of allowing things to play themselves out and not trying to control every little thing, and just say, hey, let me control my actions. Everything else will take care of itself. And oftentimes God will take care of it way better than you ever thought you could. And it ends up going significantly better than if you just let go a little bit.
Trust God and trust the process. I love it. When you were explaining that trust the process, Pete, it sounded like I was talking to Kurt Signetti for a moment. John, thanks so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Appreciate having me on.
And that does it for my conversation with John Prather. Here are my 3 main takeaways from this one. Number 1, leverage is something you build, not just something that you talk about in an ethereal sense. John's story is a good reminder that hard work is not the same as leverage, and the goal is to get your effort to compound over time instead of resetting every single day. Number 2, a great mentor doesn't just share their tactics, they raise your own internal standard. The way John described mentorship really came down to becoming a different version of yourself, not just learning a new strategy. Number 3, AI can speed things up, but it doesn't replace doing the work. It can remove friction, it can make things simpler, but at the end of the day, the people who win are still going to be the ones who show up, do the reps, and stick with it long enough for things to click. If you want to connect with John, his links can be found in the description or show notes of this episode, including access to his plugin profit guide and information on how to work with him. And if you're an author, course creator, consultant, or coach, and you want to close the client execution gap so your clients actually follow through and get results, grab the free Program Execution Engine Toolkit at the link in the description. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.